All right, we're back.
And that was it. That's all I got. I thought it was one of the best conclusions I've ever given. So, recovery heart rate is very important for two reasons. One, it helps us to take the toxins in the body and not only removes them, but very powerfully, we can take something as limiting as lactate and actually convert it back into energy. That's how powerful it is. So 8 to 12 minutes of 60-65% heart rate is very powerful as a recovery technique. Now, for extra brownie points, why do you think it's only 8 to 12 minutes?
Avoid the cortisol.
Bam. It's that simple. Well done. We could also be looking at cardiovascular strength, but it could be central versus local. Central meaning systemically, local meaning in a particular part of the body. I mean, you guys know if I do drills in the swimming pool versus on a bike versus on a treadmill at the same quote intensity, I get very different heart rate responses. You know, doing drills in the swimming pool is on average 10 beats per minute less than on ground-based training. So you can feel like you're working at the same intensity and still be kicking out 10 beats per minute less. It's the same on a bike, different from running, right? So when we're looking at cardiovascular strength, we need to question, do you want it systemically or do you want it locally, i.e. predominantly in the lower body for a cyclist? Do you need it more systemically for a swimmer, whatever it may be? Then we've got endurance. Do you need more endurance? Again, systemically versus local. And then do you need systemic recovery and regen versus just heart rate recovery and regen? The difference being this, heart rate recovery would be something where your heart needs to be able to recover to perform another bout of work. Recovery and regen is I'm trying to get the entire body to recover from the stresses of that session and or from the stresses of that phase of training. Slightly different. Am I looking for a systemic flush? Am I looking to, bring the whole system down and bring it into balance? Or am I just looking for that energy system to recover so it can come back again? So we've pieced into this puzzle 6 major goals for energy system development. And based on what the main goal for that unit is, or that microcycle, mesocycle, macrocycle is, you choose different components on any given day of the week. And you have to match the acute variables to that slice of the pie. That's simple. Now, something that I'm very, very passionate about, and we're trying to bring into everything we teach now, is synchronizing ESD with everything else we do. We wear this. Let me see if we can get you here. We wear this no matter what we're doing. If I'm on the track chasing rugby balls, if I'm doing a recovery regen, if I'm on the treadmill, if I'm lifting heavy at the deadlift blocks, I'm wearing this. Because whatever my purpose for that session is, this thing is my only acute, instant biofeedback that's actually measurable. That's actually measurable and actually reproducible. So, for example, if I'm in a recovery and regen session, I'm going to do a 20-minute recovery regen session between my heavy lift days, whatever it may be. What do you think my heart rates would want to be?
65 to 100.
You got it, mate. Congratulations. So, if I say I'm going to do some dynamic movement preps, and I look down, I'm like, whoa, I'm in zone 2. Zone 2 for me is not recovery and regen, that's aerobic. And at the end of zone 2, I'm in my lower threshold. When I get into zone 3, I'm in my upper threshold, if I'm using a 3-zone model. Well, I need to know that, because if I do a 12-minute active recovery session, and as it turns out, I've been at 70% heart rate the whole time, but my perception of 70% is this is easy, because I like to train at 85 to 100%, which actually is me, I'll be honest with you. Whether I'm lifting, doing speed, agility, quickness, energy system development, I like upper threshold work. I really don't enjoy it. I've played rugby for 25 years. I don't enjoy low intensity work. So one thing that was my limiting factor was recovery and regen. To use one of Mark Versagen's most accurate quotes is, work plus rest equals success. We're very good at the work part. We really aren't that good at the rest part. That was the case in my training. I was stressing myself at the right intensities, the right volumes, but my recovery was terrible. So on an active recovery day, what I thought was active recovery, some warm-up, some movement drills, maybe a little bit of speed agility, some active 3D stretching. When I started putting this thing on, I was like, dude, 17 minutes out of 20 was at 70, 75%. I actually, not only did I not get recovery, I started to break down the reserves I needed for tomorrow when I hit the gym hard again. So if you're in a recovery regen phase, your lifting, your mobility, your stability, your ESD all has to be at the same, with the same acute variables. If I'm in a peak power phase of training, or more commonly, power endurance phase of training, then what do you think some basic acute variables would be? Give me some time under tension, sets, reps, frequency of training for power endurance. Let's say it's a rugby player, could be a soccer player, who needs repeated bouts of near maximal output, repeated bouts. They don't get to recover fully. Power endurance. What would some acute variables look like?
No answer.
No answer? Okay. Is power going to be slow speed or quick speed?
Quick.
Is it going to be like 2 minutes of time under tension, or would it be more like, 0 to 30 seconds? Would I need some recovery in order to repeat at near maximal levels again?
Yeah.
Would I want to repeat that multiple times because it's an endurance kind of stress? Okay. So when you hit the treadmill or the bike today, that's what your program needs to look like. When you hit the weights tomorrow, that's what your program needs to look like. When you're doing your movement prep and movement enhancement work, that's what your program needs to look like. What we currently have is tremendous incongruency. That's a key word, incongruency. Not right or wrong, just incongruent. And if it's incongruent, it's not effective. So if you've got a typical triathlete or ultra endurance athlete, they hate to do low time under tension, high intensity work because their mindset and the emotional belief system that goes with it, which is even more important, is I need to work longer to get better. So first of all, recovery and regen is out of the equation. Just change the recovery and regen, you'll change their performance because they're ready to go again. They can sustain it better. But they still need to sprint away from the pack in the water. They still need to climb that hill. They still need repeated bouts of power. So it's very typical that they never actually really do a lot of above threshold. They get to like that lactate level and they hold it like, I did 3 miles near threshold. Dude, if you ran 3 miles, you weren't at threshold. You can't run for 3 miles at threshold. Once you hit threshold, you've only got, a couple of minutes before you crash and burn. But their perception is, I went above my normal intensity. You did. But what you really did was undulate in steady state. We need to educate them that, in the next 7 days, 10 days, however long your microcycle is, we need to get you above threshold so we can push that threshold to the right. In order to do it, this is your training zone. This is your recovery zone. When you hit that zone, boom, come back to recovery. Only when your heart rate says you recovered, go again. And we're going to repeat that however many times is relevant to their goal, right? We don't do that very well, and it's something we need to do. If that's what the lifting program looks like, that's what their cardio program needs to look like. So, it's not just the energy systems. Sorry, was there a question?
Yeah.